Look, whether you love it or hate it, I don't think there's any denying how timeless vintage music is as a whole. There's just something sprinkled in a production that makes everything sound beautiful. Just a sweet, warm, melancholic mix of things.
It's perfect.
Simply perfect. It's absolute cinema. It's a sound that's been proven to stand the test of time again and again. And it's almost as if our ears were hardwired to enjoy and appreciate everything put into it. And even though I can go on about all the vintage genres and subgenres, everything that makes them special, etc., there's just one that stands out the most, at least to me. Now, neo soul is a genre that formed around the late 80s to the early 90s, and as the name suggests, it's a new take on the soul genre. It takes so many different elements from the music world, but mostly what stands out is the soul, R&B, and hip-hop influences within it. It's a sound that was brought forward by artists like Lauryn Hill, Erykah Badu, and the late D'Angelo. And all of these artists had very groundbreaking and impressive discographies. So to try and uncover what makes it so special, I studied the genre and took inspiration from some of my favorite neo-soul artists. I took apart their approach in terms of production, sound selection, and song structure. Here's a breakdown on how I attempted to reproduce the timeless element of vintage neo-soul records. So one of the first things that you notice when you listen to this music is how simple everything is. Not too much things are overthought or complicated. So just to go in line with that, I added this addictive keys mono compressed piano, and I just played 2 chords in a jazzy, groovy type of way. And just on top of that, I added some keys just to add some accents, and this is what the keys sounded like. And I did also leave some of the keys unquantized just to have it feel natural and human, because back then you didn't have time to just press shift Q or quantize everything, so you had what you had. And that's exactly how I left things. Now to get that signature vinyl sound, I added retro color, the vinyl preset, and took the lows off just to leave some space for the bass. Next, I added this Analog Lab electric piano just to cover that open space, and the preset is 24 mellow piano, just in case you're wondering. And this is how it sounds. And for the effects, I just added a tape, chorus, and took the lows out. Now, something common in some of the Erykah Badu or Lauryn Hill songs is this very luscious guitar with smooth accents that are just panned from left to right. They go all around the ear and they surround you. Just to go with that feel, I added this DAR guitar, and it has 2 very different parts. One is panned to the left, one is panned to the right. I'm just gonna play both of them all at once. Now the first guitar, which is panned to the left, if I'm not mistaken, you know, Beyonce to the left, okay, I'm sorry. Basically what this guitar does is take the chords from the piano and ease into the next part with this accent right here. Now the second one that goes to the right is just a pluck and a note. It's just as simple as that. Now I didn't put too much processing in this guitar because it already had the vibe and feel that I wanted. The textures, the sounds were just correct, so I kept it as is. Now to add some depth in the mix, I took this pad from Expand and I just strummed the first chord from the piano. Now you will notice that the pad goes from ear to ear and it's also just ducking and coming back. So what I did to get that is just add kickstart and go from the default quarter to the half. And then pancake is what takes it from left to right. And to finalize the sound and give it texture, I added the Abbey Road tape. Now last but not least, for the melodies, I took these 2 vintage guitars and panned them from left to right, added chorus, and then exported them, plugged them back in to give it this final sound. And for the guitar fix, I just added some cremor tape to give it texture, and I also removed the lows. This is the cremor tape settings. Something else that's very common in these records is that they have hip-hop inspired drums. That's the exact mindset I had when I made this drum break. Now I do have occasional bongo hits within these drums, and that's something that's inspired by Erykah Badu's Bag Lady or Didn't You Know. There are these very occasional Afro percussion elements that I added to the song, and they add so much to the vibe, and that's what inspired the bongos. And something that brings everything together is the bass. It's something that's so simple, but if you mess it up, the whole thing just sounds off. Neo Soul records have basses that are very groovy, jazzy, but still simple, so I made sure I kept it simple. And now this is the entire chorus section. Now moving on to the verse, I changed the bass up a bit just to keep the listener interested. One thing Neo Soul does is subtly keep you on your toes, so I made sure to do that exactly. Now on the melody side, I also just added this piano on the top end just for that extra ear candy. I did keep that unquantized as well. And finally for the drums, I added an open hat just to give the verse more groove. And this is how the whole thing came together. Now on the second part of the verse, I just added these subtle guitar plucks. Now something else that I did for this part was just tighten up the drums a bit by adding a different kick and a different snare to make it snappier, punchier, and add more tension for the next part. And now we come to the bridge, or rather pre-chorus part, and what I did is just copy the keys from the verse and paste them here. The only thing I did different was add a new bass pattern and have it ease into the chorus. This is how everything sounds together. Now all I did for the second chorus was just make it a bit longer and add punchier drums to it. I also added a variation of the vintage chorus guitars, and this is how they sound. Now I know this might be counterintuitive, but I did all the melodies and the drums before I went into the intro. I just wanted to make sure everything felt right before I went into the intro, because this is one of the most important parts to me. Regardless of that, I still kept it simple, keeping the same chords from the chorus and then adding some drums, spacing it out and letting it be. Now that was the process of the entire beat, but the last part was just to make everything sound warm and perfect. So I added this tape and tube. For the tube, I just went for subtlety and I messed around with the beast and beauty knobs, also up the post and the bass relief just a bit. And for the tape, I just changed the formula, the bias, up the saturation, as well as the noise level and the flutter. So with everything I covered, we have a very cohesive, vintage neo-soul inspired project. And in my opinion, it sounds very good. But tell me what you think in the comments. See you in the next one.